Hello everyone, this is Heleen, your detox coach from A Northern Infinite Wellness, and today I want to speak about our bowel. What it entails, who it doesn't entail, the relationship it has with other parts of the body, other substances in the body, how we can keep it healthy, what happens if it breaks down, all these weird and wonderful things about our bowel. So in the beginning there were cells and they became an embryo, and in that time the spinal column is formed and the gut tissue of the eventual baby. This gut tissue becomes the GI tract, and then all the other organs grow from there. So the GI tract has this electrical relationship with the rest of the body, the same way the iris, the soles of your feet, the palms of your hands have. It's like the whole body connects to that part of the body. And it's a hollow tube, right? It's this hollow tube that goes through the center of our body. And the main purpose of this hollow tube is to bring the outside world to the inside so that you can grow your cells and so that your cells can regenerate and your body can stay healthy. This biological suit of ours can stay healthy for as long as our spirit wants to use it. Is it as easy as putting an apple in my mouth and expecting the nutrients of the apple to get to my cells? I wish it was. This whole torso area, basically the main reason for its existence is being a food processor. So there's 4 processes that your food has to go through before it reaches the cell. And these 4 processes is also the reason why you're still alive. If an elimination, for instance, didn't work, you would have been dead by now. And this is also the one that's slowly killing us because it's not fully working. The first one is digestion. The next one is absorption, utilization, and elimination. So the GI tract has to do with digestion, absorption, and elimination. This is huge. One piece of your body, one hollow tube, has to do with 3 of the processes necessary to keep you healthy and alive. So it goes to say that it's very important for this bowel structure of yours to be healthy. And if it's not healthy, to get it healthy, because you're going to be a much better person for that. This hollow tube either delivers our sustenance or it delivers our toxins to the body, and you decide which one it will be. If you have a compacted bowel and it's full of parasites and a lot of things that's not supposedly to be there, it's going to deter the absorption. It's going to deter the success of elimination. It's going to affect the way you either build your body or not build your body. Dr. Jensen spent 60 years of his life in studying the bowel, and his final conclusion of his research is, if you don't start with healing the bowel, you might as well leave it. This is where everything needs to start. And then his younger friend, Dr. Morse, is still with us, took it further. He's still very much focused on elimination, but he brought the kidneys to the picture as well, which is then connected to the lymphatic fluid, as you guys know by now. We will get to that relationships in a little bit. Let's look a little bit how the bowel actually works. What makes it work? How does it work? So when we eat food and we chew our food and we swallow our food, this is all voluntary actions. This is actions that I instigate by deciding I now want to pick up a fork, I want to get some food and I put it in my mouth, I'm going to chew this food and I'm going to swallow it. This is all run by my central nervous system because it's a voluntary action. When it reached my stomach, the chemical process is already underway. So now the next step, the next performance of this GI tract is your stomach, your small intestine. So this is a chemical response in your stomach. As it hits your intestines, it works on peristalsis. It works on muscle contraction and valve actions. And that's how it moves through your small intestines and your colon, eventually to your rectum and eventually to be expelled, whatever wastes there are. So this is not a voluntary action though. I'm not sitting here going like, okay, now I want that muscle to do this so that the food can move from this part of my small intestine to this. I don't do that. We don't do that. This is autonomic movements that's happening. We call it peristalsis, and this is governed by the autonomic nervous system, which exists of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So these are involuntary actions, autonomic actions that take place, and if it doesn't take place, you're in deep trouble. So there's this neurological connection to especially our intestinal tract, which is part of the GI tract, but it's the bulk of the bowel. You know, the breakdown sort of happens from here to the stomach. The moment it hits the small intestines, digestion starts happening. It moves into absorption and then elimination. So this is the bulk of our bowel, right? So there's a few things that can deter this from working. Absorption can be affected by the mucoid plaque. If you haven't heard of the mucoid plaque yet, this is a plaquing that forms on the inside of your intestinal tract that exists of basically refined starches, sugars, and dairy. And those foods create a mucus reaction in the intestine as well. So with this mucus reaction, with the gluey substances coming from the starches and the proteins coming from the dairy and the binding factors coming from the sugars, this all creates this rubber-like kind of mucoid plaque that's in the inside of your intestinal tract. And this will, of course, deter you from absorbing very well. You know, if you're very limited in your absorption while you have this plaque. We get rid of this plaque by eating fruits and using herbs. That's the easiest way to do it. And the moment you get rid of this plaque, I lost mine in one go, like some of you know by now. Other people will lose it in pieces that you can see in their stool. Black, grey, translucent, rubber-like substance that's in the stool. So that has an effect, right? And then there's this connection with the autonomic nervous system. So and this connection with the autonomic nervous system connected directly with the adrenals, because the adrenals produce the neurotransmitters that runs on that runs our nervous system. Actually, it's the spark of our nervous system. Without the spark, there's no instruction happening. So without neurotransmitters, your heart won't be beating, your peristalsis won't be happening, your breathing won't be happening, your dilation of your pupils won't be happening. There's a few autonomic things happening in your body that needs this nervous system to be strong so that it actually happens. So many times we can sit with a situation like diarrhea and constipation, which is the flip side of the same coin. Basically, either food are leaving your body too fast, which is not good because you can't absorb well when this happens, and or it is stuck. It's constipated. It's sitting there, and now it's putrefying and it's fermenting, and these toxins are leaching into the bloodstream. And both of these are because of a weak nervous system in the bowel. It doesn't have so much to do with the bowel itself, than it has to do with the nervous system that governs the bowel, which boil back to the neurotransmitters, which boils back to the adrenals. So there's this beautiful connection between the adrenals and the bowel. You technically cannot heal the bowel without healing the adrenals. You cannot heal the adrenals without healing the bowel, right? And then there's this connection between the lymphatic system and the bowel as well, because in between all the cells in the wall of the bowel and the stomach and all the other organs that plays a part in the bowel function, there is lymphatic fluid. And if this lymphatic fluid itself is not moving as well as it should, it's sticky, it makes things tear, you know. So now if you have a big thing happening in your intestine, instead of stretching and allowing for that thing to happen, it could actually rip, or it can get damaged. And this is a big deal. So you don't want this to be acidic and non-pliable. You want to keep it alkaline and pliable so that it can respond and react and move without hurting itself, right? And let's look a little bit at conditions that we are used to when the bowel goes sour. Ulceration, that happens, of course, when you're eating, firstly, complex structured proteins, complex structured amino acid food that hits the stomach and now needs acids, hydrochloric acid and pepsin, to break it down. There's this hydrochloric acid and pepsin has got a pH of between 2 and 3. It's very low on the pH scale, which means it's very acidic. Then it's got 2 centimeters to move from being a very acidic chyme to be an alkaline chyme before it goes into the small intestines. So the liver and the pancreas both have to produce bile and bicarb to change this acidic chyme to an alkaline chyme, so that by the time it goes into the small intestines, it can actually continue digesting and it doesn't burn. So when it goes into the intestine without having been alkalized fully, it actually starts ulcerating the intestines, and this is a harsh reality to deal with. You know, it burns, ulceration burns, acids burn, and this translates into pain. Very much similar, going the opposite direction. If you have acids in your stomach that are not being alkalized correctly or sufficiently, and the reason it won't be alkalized sufficiently is because the organs that's supposed to produce the bile and the bicarb, the pancreas and the liver, are actually becoming weaker and weaker over time because they're being used constantly to produce this alkalizing bile and bicarb for the very acidic diets we are on. So when we move into the world of carbs, of sugar rather than proteins, we don't have that problem because all carbs are digested by the alkaline enzymes in your spit or some alkaline enzymes produced by the pancreas. So then you don't have the acid problem. There's people that sit with so much acid in their stomach. Remember, your stomach is not a chamber that holds acid waiting for food to drop in it. No. It's an empty chamber. It's supposed to be an empty chamber. When it receives food that is carb based, that doesn't need acidic breakdown, it's just a holding back, the stomach. There's no acids involved. It's alkaline breakdown. It's just a holding back, and it's going to go to the small intestines very alkaline already. When complex structures are eaten and acid breakdown is necessary, now the stomach and the small intestine will start producing the hydrochloric acid and the pepsins necessary for that system. So when you sit with heartburn, it's not because there's stomach acids that's just pushing up. It's actually because you've been eating complex structured food that instigated acids for the breakdown, and you don't have sufficient liver and pancreas function to actually bring this chime down to an alkaline chime. And there's a pushback effect now, that push back into your high esophagus. And that burning and ulceration there is really also very gnarly to deal with. Diarrhea and constipation, we spoke about a little bit now. IBS, Crohn's, celiac disease, this is all different parts of the intestinal tract that has different problems. Celiac disease is when the finger-like villi in the small intestines, the nerve in them became so weak that they just start folding over. Now there's no nutrients being sucked in and pushed out into the body. It actually just, it's like this. So you're feeding the toilet. The food is just going to go right through you. Irritable bowel syndrome is also a kind of neurological thing, right? It's more the neurological weakness in the bowel that creates irritable bowel syndrome. Acid reflux, we spoke about. Esophagus breakdown is basically because of constant acid reflux. Prolapsing or ballooning, this is when hernias and hemorrhoids and that starts happening as well. And you can also see prolapsing and ballooning if you look in the iris. The bowel is around the iris. You can almost see how the bowel goes out of form. Then you know there's prolapsing or ballooning. So for prolapsing or ballooning to take place, this is now another relationship with the parathyroids we've got and with the acidosis level in our body. This is a two-way thing. So let's start with the acidosis level in your body. If you live on a diet that introduces too much acidic ash after every meal to your system, and you are acidifying yourself on a daily basis, your elimination is not working as it should, so this acid is accumulating, you're building this very acidic inner environment, right? So now your body's first option to deal with this kind of acidosis is steroids. So first it would ask the adrenals to make more steroids, but many times most of us are sitting with weak adrenals. So even if we were a healthy body, the adrenals are weak and won't be able to produce enough steroids. Now we're in an acidic body, our adrenals are weak, and it's definitely not producing enough steroids. So one of the 4 ways the body will use to combat this is by leaching calcium from your matrix. Calcium is a very base element. It's an alkaline mineral, and it's very much available in your body. It is used in cell membrane, in the walls of cells, the membranes of cells. It is used in your bones, your connective tissue, your ligaments. Every tissue part of your body needs calcium to have a healthy structure. So now the body would borrow this calcium from your frame to put it in between the acids and the tissue so that the tissue doesn't burn from the acids. Almost like zinc cream that you put on a baby's bum. Almost the same as that, right? So now it buffers the tissue from the lymph that contains all the acids because the acids wasn't able to leave the body. And that's okay if the body had the ability to put to put calcium back into the tissue. That would have been fun. It would have been a really cool way to actually borrow the calcium, buffer, and then just reintroduce calcium to all the tissue, right? But now the problem is calcium utilization are dependent upon the parathyroid hormones, produced by the parathyroid glands, which are 4 little glands sitting on each lobe, or 2 glands on each lobe of the thyroid. They produce parathyroid hormone. If there's not enough parathyroid hormone around, your cell actually can't use the calcium. So now you're going to eat calcium. All diets include calcium, by the way, and enough as well. You're going to be eating the calcium, but the calcium is going to go to the toilet because you're going to hopefully digest and absorb quite successfully. By the time it swims past the cell, if this cell doesn't have a parathyroid hormone to pull it into the cell, it's not going to go into the cell, and you're going to be calcium deficient, and this deficiency is going to build up year after year after year after year. Okay, so this is when your connective tissue and are becoming weak. You see things like varicose veins and spider veins. You see hemorrhoids and hernias and all of these. So how do we heal these conditions? How do we heal our bowel? First and foremost, we have to sort out the lymphatic fluid. It's such a repeat button, right? But without this river that our cells live in being healthy, we can't create health. We can't reverse damage. We can't bring healing. We have to look at this river. We have to, and this is blood and lymph. Blood is very easy to clean. Clean eating of 2 weeks, you've got clean blood. The body works really hard to keep your blood clean. You've got your spleen, your liver, and your 2 kidneys really working hard on keeping the blood clean and keeping the pH at 7.4, right? But the lymph is the sewage of your body. This encapsulates all the cells in your body, including the cells of your bowel. So if you want to heal your bowel, you need to start with hydrating and alkalizing the lymph so that the lymph start draining successfully again via the bowel, the kidneys, and the skin, sometimes the backup elimination organs, the lungs as well. And this will allow the cells that make up the parts of the bowel to be able to receive nutrients successfully, to transmute it into energy, to build themselves up successfully, regenerate themselves, and have their waste successfully removed so that it doesn't bring damage to them. So this is how we heal the bowel. We use herbs as well. A good bowel formula will gently move you. It won't be a stimulant or form an addiction like cayenne pepper and aloe. It will focus on anti-inflammatory actions, soothing and healing properties rather. That's the first and foremost 2 ways of healing the bowel. You change your diet to fruits and you stick to a good bowel formula. You can also do some colonics if you want to, 3 to 5 colonics maximum, just to remove the plaque if there is any, remove the debris if there is any. This is something you have to go to for therapy, for colonic therapy, so you need someone to help you with that. You can do enemas as well, low and high enemas, herbal retaining enemas, where you actually feed the herbal tea, the healing herbal tea to your colon and then just eliminate. So it sort of have a washing effect, but it's not a flushing effect at all or kind of laxative or anything like that. You can do that as well. That is specifically for people that's got colon problems or rectal problems, like cancers, hemorrhoids and the like. It's not highly suggested though. It's not really necessary if you don't have any specific problems. And the best way still is to change the diet and to use herbs. And then there are some people that use bentonite clay quite successfully. They use bentonite clay packs externally on the abdomen. That's what happens in Europe quite successfully. And then some people use it internally as well. Just do your research, check the pros and cons of the bentonite clay, and then apply it carefully when you do go that way. And that's more or less what I can tell you about the bowel. I know it's such a core part of our body. It's like the tree stump of our body. It's how the sustenance come in and the roots, go into the rest of the body. It is literally our life-giving channel. It's very important, if children were to learn from the start how important it is not to let anything pass the lips that's not good for the body, and learning what is good and not good for the body, I think we would be a different species at this stage. The same with whatever you put on your skin, right? Whatever you put on your skin is going to go into your body. If you can't eat it, don't put it on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, this is your detox coach, Heleen.